Okay, so a bit of a side project here. I'm obviously wasn't expecting this to arrive today, but it just arrived. I do feel that the P5 could benefit from electric front windows. Plus, my window winders for both sides are shagged, and you can't get good second-hand ones unless you're very lucky. I mean, you can use rear ones to try and bodge up front ones, but I thought I'd go a different direction because it just strikes me that the Rover P5 deserves to have electric windows. So I bought this kit from Autolock in the US. It's pretty basic. I mean, you've just got a sort of, you know, a worm drive down here with a piece of rather like the windscreen wiper set up on the P5, and then that just winds this plate up and down. So that's it. So you've then got this bracket, and that kind of grabs hold of the bottom of the glass. And yeah, so you know, fairly straightforward kit. If you've got a window that moves up and down vertically, which the Rover doesn't. So the Rover P5 window moves sort of at an angle as it comes up, so it's actually coming up, and as it moves up it moves back, so it's kind of coming up the tracks, as you know, at an angle, and that's your angle. So I'm assuming that what I'm probably going to have to do with this is mount it, say, at an angle that follows the angle of the runners. I mean, initially you look at it and think there's just no fucking way that's going to fit in, but you can actually cut this to length first of all, and it is far too long at the moment. I think there's about 14 inches of travel, which takes you to about there, so you're going to be cutting off about that much at the top of the track. The other thing you can do on this is you can remove the motor, and you can have a 7-inch long piece of this tube, and then you can actually have the motor mounted remotely. So my plan is that, looking at the thickness of the motor, the depth of the motor and the worm drive assembly is less than or similar to the original winder, is potentially get the motor certainly up into this space here where there isn't going to be a winder anymore, and then look at getting this track fitted going at the same angle as that leg, the front leg there, and that the rear leg then kicks down to there, to then power the window up and down, and that's as far as I've got at the moment. It's pretty painful, to be honest, and I think I might have bitten off a bit more than I want to chew. I'll get it done, I think, but it's going to be fun trying. You've got like a sort of cross brace in the door there, which is kind of in the way, so I might have to do something around that. Don't know yet, but I think the next step is to get the motor off, see if I can slide this in with the glass in place so that I can check nothing's going to foul. But I get the feeling that I've got enough space, because if you push the window down, you know, you can get your hand through there, so I don't think that's going to be too much of a problem. However, obviously this thing's going to need to be set at the right angle, but also the right depth. Plus, of course, you've got the actual challenge of adjusting the frame to fit to the door, making sure the glass is being held properly in the frame and not pinched, and then of course trying to get everything to line up with the roof line of the car. So there needs to be adjustment, and I think that's the other thing. So I need to consider that when I'm mounting this rail, is adjustment, and how I'm going to adjust it. So that's where we are at the moment, so I'll keep you up to date as I go. Right, okay, so I'm just going through the process here of trying to figure this all out, and I think it will work. The first thing I've done is I've disassembled taking the motor off the bottom. Then you basically have to cut here, leaving a piece of the pipe there, the motor mount, and then you actually cut a bit of the rail across the bottom, leaving the guide for this uncut, so it's like another stub of pipe there. So you end up with a stub of pipe there and a stub of pipe there on both these parts, and you can join it with the length of the nylon pipe that then comes out here. to take this when it's coming back down, when the mechanism is moving down. You've got this nylon pipe that curls round just to sort of, it's rather like the wipers on a P5 or a Stag or anything like that. So I definitely have to separate the motor. I can't fit the motor in, it's going to be too hard, too fiddly. You've got this part in the middle, this brace, which also forms part of the mounting for the bottom of the window. So that's a given. So I'm going to do that. And then obviously I've got to cut this down to length anyway, it's way too long at the moment. But looking at the geometry of it, obviously the way the window goes in the door is it moves up like that. So everything's on an angle going in that direction, which is what makes this complicated, because normally this would be mounted 90 degrees and your window would just go straight up and down. However, mounting it like this, then this is the plate that goes up and down, and then you would mount this, which is the receiver that holds the bottom of the window, the glass, at the same angle, so that you've got that at the angle that the glass is, because again, although the glass goes up and down in that way, the base of the glass is not horizontal to the door. If you move it down a bit, the bottom of the glass actually just slopes up like that. So this will need to be at about that angle, pinching onto the glass. Then this will be mounted about there, like so, parallel with the leg, and then the plate will be mounted actually a bit further over, like so. So basically that will then be bolted onto, so I'm going to fix that onto there. Obviously I'm going to have to re-drill some holes, because the original ones are designed for it to go like that, but it's going to go effectively at about that angle. So I'm going to make that slightly adjustable, give it about 10 degrees of adjustment there, so I can adjust things on the fly. So I just need to work that out. I might be able to use one of the existing holes and then just drill another one, and then that's already got a slot in it, so that's a bit of an adjustment there. And then once this is cut to length and shortened, it's just going to have to go, there's a bit of a kind of a recess there, but I still think it can go down to that point, because that's the lowest point it goes. So when the glass is flush with the top of the door capping about there, then there is space for this to sit underneath it at the right angle. So yeah, there you go, that's where I'm at. I've got to start cutting soon, because I can't really go any further without actually cutting this down a bit and trying to slot this into the door. So I'll cut it a bit long to start with, and then work out a way of spacing it correctly out from the inside of the door skin, so that it's obviously got to be at the right angle in the door skin, to not exert any stress on the window as it pushes it in, as it goes up and down. It needs to be parallel with the window on the same plane that it's moving in and out, or up and down. There you go. That's where I am at the minute. Hey guys, so just a quick update. So what I've done is I took off the rail off the bottom of the original rail off the bottom of the glass, attached the new one. This is loose in there, but I'm just trying to get my head around fitment. But it's basically, I trimmed it down. I've still got a bit more I can trim if I need to, but it's kind of going roughly where I want it to at the moment, and doing what it should do. So it's going to sit like that up against this panel here, so it'll be kind of 2 or 3 screws through there. Then it's kind of a case of then trying to fit it all up and run a sort of bit of a couple of tests, see if I can actually get the window to close properly. So yeah, it's a really fiddly job, but you know, once I've done one, hopefully the other one will be easier, because I can just trim it to match. But yeah, still going to get my one of those tools I bought that I never thought I'd make much use of, but actually has been very useful. So this little pneumatic air grinder with a wheel on it, cutting wheel. I use that to get in to that beneath here. Managed to cut a slot there where the wire or the cord that's going to actually this curled up whatever you want to call it, powered by the worm drive on the motor and runs up the channel. The excess is going to go, well, it's going to come through here. I'm going to put the motor in here or somewhere around here. This gives me a pretty good idea of where it's going to end up when it's fully extended, because at the moment I've got the pad pushed all the way up the rail, so that will come into here where the motor unit will sit, and the excess will then probably go back up in the tube around the corner there. Obviously none of this is going to be necessary anymore. I'm going to actually think about maybe putting a speaker in there. The door pull goes there, that doesn't interfere. Sorry, the door pull goes there and the rod goes across there, this side of the door skin, so that's going to be fine. Those two holes are where the original window pivot bracket used to go. Not going to use that anymore, so they don't need to worry about that. So yeah, so now I can get this into place. I now need to work out. I've got two existing screw holes, one there, one at the top there. So I need to get that in place, figure out roughly where I need the holes. It's going to be sort of there and there, but obviously I just need to measure those and then work it out from there. So I've drawn on here the lines, parallel lines of the window runners to give me a view of that, to help me line things up. Obviously, as you know, the window goes up and following those parallel lines like that, which is what makes this such a challenge. And then I need to get this mocked up into place parallel between those two lines, because obviously that's going to follow the same track. And then I can then measure out that hole I can do, because it's going to be around here, so it's going to be quite easy to see roughly where to have it. And I'm going to over drill it a bit, give myself some adjustment, so that's fine. And then I can measure where the other one is, and that's going to be around, I imagine, here somewhere. So I'll put a hole in there. Right, so I've made some progression here. So as I said last time, I think I've got these two holes drilled. This is now lined up and parallel with the rails of the screen follows. I then looked at where the outlet was at the bottom, and you can just see there, that's where the bottom of the rail is. And obviously, because I removed the motor, I've then situated the motor here. There's plenty of space in there, so it's quite straightforward. I had to make some spaces to then just space the motor down. So I've got a short length of poly tubing connecting the motor and the bottom of the rail, and then the rest of the poly tubing is where the tail goes, and then that kind of curls round up there, so all out of the way. So the first thing I want to do is obviously check that I've got some movement, and I'm just doing that now so you can see. So this is going up, there you go, and then back down, there you go. So as far as I'm concerned at the moment, I'm sort of feeling quite positive, because I wasn't sure about all of this. I thought I was going to get halfway through and realise it wouldn't work, but at the moment what I've now got is I've got the actual bracket that goes up and down the rail, and then attached to the bottom of the glass I've got the bracket here that then fixes to the rail. Now all I've got to do is line those two up, and I'm going to start by moving this along a bit so I can get one screw through there. So all I'm going to do is just one screw through there, and then test it, see what happens, see if I've got enough range of movement, because that should be enough to push it up and down. So that's going to happen in a few minutes, and I will let you know how I get on, or not, if it turns out to be a complete disaster. Okay guys, so I've got it temporarily one screw fixing it to the plate, which you can just see there. It's actually quite loose, because at the moment this probably needs to be spaced down a bit. It's not quite close enough to the plate, and I don't want to put everything under tension, so I'll just put in a screw so it's just snugged into that fitting. So that fitting's got a bit of play in it, and that's why I want to use that, because that was part of the original design. So obviously if I haven't got this rail perfectly in line with the outer rails, there's enough movement there to accommodate that. So I've just quickly pushed it down and it pulled the window down, so I'm going to just try it and push it all the way up. So you're seeing this for the first time with me, and I hope it works. Fingers crossed. I'm just going to do it halfway to start with. Okay, that seems to have gone alright. It doesn't seem to be under any strain, which is good. I'm going to do the rest of it. It worked! It worked! So I've done a thing! Right, see if it comes down. I was worried it was just going to fold the door in half, to be honest. That absolutely works. Obviously at the moment the door's horizontal, so it's not having to push the weight of the window up. So that'll be the next test, which I'm going to do in a minute. But that actually works. I'm thrilled. All that effort. Actually goes up nice and smooth. Obviously the frame's still a bit loose, so it's kind of pushing the frame up at the top. But that actually does work. A bit noisy, but once the door covers are on and everything, fuck it, I don't care. It can be as noisy as it likes as long as it works. Right, well, there you go. So a bit more fettling just to get the bracket flush to this, and also I've only got one bolt in. I need to then get the bolt in on the other side as well, but to all intents and purposes I'm now confident enough to say that works. That yeah, so we've only got 2 screws holding it in. I don't think it needs any more. That's quite solid. And then you've got the 3 screws holding in the motor at the bottom. You can actually, I welded the nuts on, so where the motor bolts through the bracket had 3 nuts which come loose, so I actually welded those on. So it's actually really easy to get at the mechanism, because you can just undo those 3 bolts, pull the motor off. You know, it'd be really easy to get this out if you ever needed to. So yeah. Oh, I'm not quite sure what to say. I'm just chuffed. There you go, something that works. Okay, so just to check that the window goes up on its own when and comes down when vertical. I have already checked this, so I know it's going to work, but hey. Whoop. Also sprayed a little bit of silicone into the runners. Not that it needed it. There you go. That's up and down. And up. I just love it. If nothing else works on this car, I don't care. It was worth it. So, yeah. Obviously, when it comes down now, it's faster because of the weight of the glass. I was really concerned it was going to be jerky, or that it was going to push up on one side, because it is a weird layout with the runners, but it works. I think I've just managed to hit the sweet spot. Everything seems to be lined up. So I can take all those measurements and emulate that across to the other door, and yeah, no need to worry about trying to refurbish the window winders. I'm now going to put a thumping great speaker in there because I want to. There you go.